Okay, now that the camshaft's done out of the block, where I left off, I sized everything. I got everything running in about 5 thousandths to 4.5 thousandths piston to bore clearance. If this would be cast iron cylinders, I would have had to been running tighter clearances, but since these are aluminum, the aluminum will warm up faster than the block, so I need to have that extra clearance in there. I needed to order stones to do a finish grid on it. I needed a 280. That's what the specs call out for the rings. I've already got it sized. All I'm going to do is just kiss each one of these cylinder bores, maybe 15 seconds, just to get the correct grit size in here. I don't want those bores any bigger than 5. I just need to clean it up lightly. I'm not using any coolant, no liquids at all. I don't have the facility here to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'll blow it all out, and then I'll get out the alcohol and spray it all down and do my best to get all that grit out of there. It shouldn't be that hard. It's just the air gun should do it. So, okay, let's off to finishing these cross hatches. I got everything loosely adjusted on this so that it'll slide right down into the bore. I'm just going to give this a little bit of a twist. That's all I want to do on this one, right there. I know I'm doing something because I can see the marks from when I used the bore gauge, and the marks are starting to disappear, so I know I'm not taking too much off of it. The stone's wearing a little bit too, so I adjusted each bore. Okay, that's up for the bore cleanup. So let's start cleaning this thing up. Get it ready. I'm going to put the camshaft in first, and the reason why is there's only 2 or 3 bearing supports in there, and it's a pretty long camshaft. So for me to get my hands in there, I need the crankshaft out of the way. Before we do that, I'm going to make a plug for an important piece. I'll show you that in a bit too. Yeah, this stuff's coming right off. What are you barking at? Let's get this thing up on end so I can get into the heart of it. You can see the grit in this from where I was fixing those bores. the most part, coming right out. I am going to have to get some alcohol in this and a rag, clean up all the stuff that's stuck in there. And I'm also, before I put the crank in, I'm going to take these bearing shells out, and I'm going to green Loctite each of those screws in to hold it in place. I'll get back to you when I'm done. Okay, I've rethought this. I'm getting alcohol in here. I'm getting the fine grit powder coming out of here. I'm not going to get it out unless I got some pressure in here. So pressure it is. I'm going to pull these shells out of here first. Yeah, let the fun begin. Yeah, I'm getting the camera soaking wet. Enough of this shit. Okay, that was much better, but I noticed one thing while I was doing this. Once again, the machine shop, they painted the cam bearing. It's, believe it or not, it's not a Babbitt bearing, it's steel on steel. So I gotta go in there with this ball hone and get all that paint off the bearing surface. Be careful, people. Be careful who you take your stuff to, because there's a whole lot of I don't know what the fuck I'm doing going on here coming from that machine shop. I don't have to get too technical with this one. It's just a ball hone on a drill. What's it coming? Is it coming off or not? Yep, it is coming off. Oh yeah. Okay, it's all off. Yay. I don't have to worry about that paint buggering up inside of the bearing now. Jesus. Well, now I got it nice and clean. I want to dry out these bores. Oh, that hand's a little swelled up. I think that's the one I use the most. Let's see if the non-usable hand fits in there, or the one I don't use the most. Oh, look at that. I guess that hand has the least arthritis in it, huh? What I'm going to do, get all these bores cleaned up, and then just give it a shot of WD-40. And then that way I don't have to worry about the bores freaking rusting up. Okay, yesterday I talked briefly about that hole right there needs to be plugged from the upper and lower coolant jacket. So I ordered some stainless steel washers, pretty thick, so when I tighten it down, it ain't going anywhere. Stainless steel nut and bolt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one straight across, leave the nut loose, and then I can slide it in, tighten it up. Okay, I need to weld the nut onto there and do the cutting for that. So let's get started. Like I said, I need to slot this, so I just put a bolt and a nut on here and another nut. Okay, I tried welding this with the stainless rod and the acetylene torch, and it wasn't working too well. So my determination is it doesn't matter if I don't use stainless weld on this, because this is just a nut to hold it on there while I tighten it up. If it rots off, I'll probably be dead by the time it rots off. At my age, this is the way you think of things nowadays. So I just need to tack a couple of these sides together. Ooh, the old reach around there. One more shitty weld for the books. But you know what? It's gonna do. Okay, the plan was take this, put it in here, slip it down into the hole, slide that in the hole, over, back again, and lock it down. My bolt's a 1/4 inch too short. So this is the new plan. I found a longer bolt that's going to give me the room to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put RTV here and here, and I'm going to put it around the back side of this, tighten it down, go golfing, come back, pull this back out, and then put the shorter bolt back in. That should work. Okay, it's going to work. So I just have to let that dry, and I can come back and put the smaller bolt in, a little Loctite on it. That should do it. Thinking. Should. Well, I still have an hour before golf. So I'm going to prep and get the cut plugs in these holes here. I got to get the paint out of this first. I wish I had a smaller wire wheel, but I don't. There's 2 here, and there's 2 front and rear. Wow, the brush fits in the front and rear one. Look at that. No problem at all here. Yeah. Okay, let me finish prepping these. Yeah, I'm just going to do the ones on the side now. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I want this retaining compound to have every chance in the world of doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, putting it there. I'm going to run it around the edge here if I can on each one of these. I know I can. The first block I had, I rebuilt, it's in a car now. This was leaking. Okay, so got that out. Let me put some around this. What I got going on here? Oh, I got a booger in there. There we go. Especially the one on the back of the block. Make sure this is done well, because the only way to get at the one on the back of the block is pull the block. See, that one went right in there. That's good. I'm going to give this a light tap to get it seated. And it's not wanting to get seated properly, of course. I don't know why this is not wanting to seat. There it goes. Make sure it's seated properly first. That one's good. Just put a little more in here Give it a second to wick in there. This could be out of whack just a little. No, that was seated. Now, these aren't like normal cut plugs. When you pound down on them, they expand out. So don't have to get too crazy with it. That should be all that's needed. You could actually hear the difference in me hammering it when it seated itself. Okay. Now, it's time to get ready for golf. Okay, it's going to work here. The one thing that didn't work was I bought the wrong size nuts. I needed 1.25 inches, and the reason why is there was flashing on the bottom side of that block water jacket that I didn't account for. So I'm going to lube this up briskly because this should never have to come out again, ever, 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 or at least in my lifetime. I know that's overkill, isn't it? Oh, yeah. I love it when a plan comes together. Oh, it's not coming together. Ooh, I need both hands for this one. Okay, it's going to work here. The one thing that didn't work was I bought the wrong size nuts. I needed 1.25 inches, and the reason why is there was flashing on the bottom side of that block water jacket that I didn't account for. So I'm going to lube this up briskly because this should never have to come out again, ever, 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 or at least in my lifetime. I know that's overkill, isn't it? Oh, yeah. I love it when a plan comes together. Oh, it's not coming together. Ooh, I need both hands for this one. Well, almost worked. One side of the goop didn't goop, so it's on an angle. I'm going to have to try that again, except use more goop. The second time was a charm. I didn't have enough goop on it. The plug is in. I tightened it down enough to where the bottom plate arched up and the top washer pulled down. That'll hold it centered in the hole so it won't want to move. You use a lot of red Loctite. Now let me tell you why plugging this hole is so important. This was a casting hole to get the sand out of the block when they cast it. People call these freeze plugs, but they're not. Oh yeah, I signed that one. I'll get back to that one in a minute. They call them freeze plugs, but they're not. They're core plugs, and they allow the casting sand to be shaken out of the block after the casting process takes place. Now, the coolant needs to flow through certain paths of the block up and through the head, and you can see where the coolant goes through these holes here. That hole, coolant doesn't flow through. this big hole here. That's just access to that. You look down inside of here, right there is a coolant passage. There's none there. There's one here in the back of the block here. You can't even see it, but that goes down to the second passage. It's important that the coolant be directed to certain parts of the block and head so it can cool the whole thing uniformly. With that plug missing, all the coolant's coming straight up through here and it's rushing back out the block here. So you're not cooling the cylinder head, and what you're going to have happen is you're going to have head gasket failures in here and or possible cylinder head cracking. So if you're doing one thing when you're rebuilding these inline sixes on these Nashes, it's going to be 19 through 1924. This is the block design. Critical you have that plug in. I don't think the early Nashes had this prior to 19. I think they were still using the Jeffries block design, if I'm not mistaken. And then they went to the Super 6, which I don't have too much experience with those, so I don't know if that plugs in there or not. But there you go. Block prep is done. I got all the core plugs in. And what I did with this one here is, since the firewall is right here, I took no chances. I got the plug in there and then I JB welded it and then put the date on the engine rebuild. And block prop done. Let's get to putting this baby together.